The next part of the journey, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains that then he went on to the east, the Matli ash-Shams. And there, interestingly, he met a different type of community. On the way, he went through different communities. He invited them to Islam. If they accepted, then he added them to their armory, he added them to their men, and so forth. And they went on to the next place. He learnt on the way. He was a great anthropologist as well, you could say as well. He was a sociologist. He learnt about different cultures. He learnt about different people as well. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he reached a community which, what? تَطْلُعُ عَلَىٰ قَوْمٍ لَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُم مِّن دُونِهَا سِتْرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Dhu'l Qarnayn to a community where the people did not have a shelter from the sun. This is all that is mentioned. So this has sparked a lot of opinion from our ulama, from our experts and mufassirun as to what this actually means. Some have said that it means that there were no buildings or trees that could provide them shade. It was a total flat plain, you could say. Some say it was something to do with the land itself, in the sense that no building could be built on it. It was almost a marshland, that it wasn't very secure. And that's why there were no buildings there. Some have said that it was a building which was basically primitive. No towns there. Qatada mentions that it was a land where nothing grew. So that when the sun rose in the morning, these people, this community, they would hide in their tunnels. And they would spend most of their daytime in there. And then in the evening they would come out. So they became nocturnal as a result. Different opinions on that. Other opinions, a very more recent opinion, Imam Sha'rawi says that what it means is that the sun, Dhu'l Qarnayn was sent to that area of the world where the sun rises for 6 months at a time. We know now that in the northern hemisphere and in the very southern hemisphere, there are areas which have unbelievably long days, 6 months day and 6 months night. Those areas in the Arctic and those areas in the Antarctic Circle. Imam Sha'rawi rahmatullahi alayhi is of the opinion that perhaps this is where he went. This is where Dhu'l Qarnayn travelled. Wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best where to exactly it was. What do we learn from this particular part? Dhu'l Qarnayn was sent to all of his people, all of his subjects. You know, a lot of the time when we see this, when we're having our fair share of elections nowadays, but when you have a prime minister, when you have a leader of the opposition, or you have an MP, and he is on the streets, or he is going campaigning, or he is going to a particular place, then the first thing the party will ensure is that the place that they go to is not very hostile. They will always ensure that the people they are going to are like the leader themselves. That there is no friction. A true leader goes wherever he needs to. Nowadays we have prime ministers and we have presidents and we have leaders that if they are from a banking background, then they only look after the financial sector. We have people who are from a certain caste and from a certain background and they only look after those people. Dhu'l Qarnayn, by going to a very isolated qawm, a very difficult area of the world, it is showing that when you are a leader, you have to go to all places. You have to respect all the people that are under your milkiyat, that are under your leadership as well. Finally, the third journey that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Holy Qur'an where Dhu'l Qarnayn went was to the land of Yajuj and Majuj. So from the east of the earth, Dhu'l Qarnayn traveled to a place between two mountains, and there in the valley there was a community living there. The first thing we learn about this community is that they could not understand the language. They couldn't understand anything. لَا يَكَادُونَ يَفْقَهُونَ قَوْلًا. So it means that these people were isolated. These people, they did not leave their area. They didn't have any translators. You develop translators, any nation or any country develops translators when they leave their nation, travel a lot and then come back and tell them about these. This particular nation, they had no translators. They were total isolated people. When they got there, by whichever means, these people, they explained to Dhu'l Qarnayn that between these two mountains is Yajuj and Majuj. They are causing havoc and destruction to our lives. So these people, they said to Dhu'l Qarnayn, here is a payment, we will give you the payment, but please ensure that you can stop us from the trouble, from the destruction of Yajuj and Majuj. The first thing that Dhu'l Qarnayn said to these people, he said that I do not need your payment. He said that the payment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving me is much better than you can ever provide me. So he turned down the money, he turned down the payment. The second thing he said, I am not going to build this wall alone. Rather, فَأَعِينُونِي بِقُوَّةٍ. Give me the manpower and we will together collectively build a barrier against Yajuj and Majuj. So he requested their help as well. He said, I am not going to do this alone with my army. I request local knowledge as well in order to build this barrier. So this barrier, it began to take shape. He asked for blocks of iron. Atuni Zubar al-Hadid. This is one opinion. Zubar here means blocks. Hadid means irons. Some scholars say that it wasn't blocks of irons, rather it was sheets of iron. If it was indeed blocks, then these blocks, they were very, very heavy. Reports say that each block of iron weighed about 256 kilograms. And basically between the two mountains, Dhu'l Qarnayn and his army and his people, they began to put the iron blocks in place to fill up the space between those two mountains. When it eventually reached the top, then it was set alight, it was burnt to very hot temperatures. And then after that, copper was brought and that was melted on top to make it much more stronger, to strengthen it as well. And this was the completed project. It looked black and red, and eventually Yajuj and Majuj would come out of it. But Dhu'l Qarnayn told his people at that time that this wall here will protect you. But when the matter and the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, nothing can stop Yajuj and Majuj escaping. Yajuj and Majuj is one of the final signs of the day of Qiyamah. Right now, Yajuj and Majuj, they are secure behind this wall. Closer to the end of time, they will be released. So Dhu'l Qarnayn did not do a favor on this community. He did a favor on all of humanity by building this wall, by constructing this barrier, this sadda, to stop the havoc and destruction of Yajuj and Majuj until the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, which is closer to the end of time. But we do know, although this wall is very secure, in his lifetime, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam woke up one morning and he explained to his family that a small hole, and he made a diagram like this. He said a small hole has already appeared in the wall of Yajuj and Majuj. And by saying that, he was trying to remind you and I that the Qiyamah is coming very near. That this small hole, it could get bigger and bigger, and obviously near the end of time, it will be huge. Yajuj and Majuj will escape and they will cause havoc and destruction on earth.